And well, I was building a fence for them. Just putting T-posts, putting wire up. We was building it. There ain't never been a fence on this place before. After we got done on it, it's about, oh, I'd say we did either about a half a mile to a mile of fencing altogether. Well, we had this boy out there helping with us. He was one of my friends from church. He still is. His name was Cameron. God bless the boy. He was a big help, but he also kind of got me in a bind a little bit. And we stretching. Huh?
Did you say Kansas?
Yeah, that's not his name. It's what we call it. Kansas, because he's from Kansas. Anyways, we start stretching this wire, or getting it unraveled, and we did a pretty good distance. Anyways, he gets about halfway down, and I got the wire in my hand, and all of a sudden I found myself wrapped up in barbed wire. That kind right there. Well, I'm hollering at him, telling him to stop walking. He don't stop walking because he can't hear me. And I finally hollered at the top of my lungs, and by God, he knew something was wrong. So he stopped and said, "What happened?" I said, "Boy," I said, "I'm wrapped up in this deal." I said, "You got to quit." He said, "All right." So he walks back down there, and I've got it wrapped all up my legs and on my wrist and everything else like that. Well, I get it off of me, and I don't know about y'all, but if it's like a real deep cut, just depends on what's cutting me. I can't really tell if I've been cut or not. But I looked, and I was bleeding right there on the wrist. And I looked, and it was pretty deep. I was like, well, I said, I ain't going to let it stop me. So I keep working, wipe the blood off and gone. We get that fence put up, and I get to the house. And of course, it's scabbed up and everything like that. And so the scab goes away, and it left a scar. Well, I'll tell you that story to give you this message. The message is called barbed wire. And like I said, if you ever been around barbed wire, you're going to get cut. Well, barbed wire is a lot like sin. If you get around sin, you start hanging around sin, you're going to get cut. And it depends on what type of sin. All sin, there's no sin greater than another sin. But it depends on what you're doing and how bad you're sinning, in the sense of how far you're going in that sin. Depends on how bad you get cut. And if you get real bad into it, you leave scars. You leave scars. Scars heal. They're there to remind you not to go back to the place that you are. That's what I use my scars as. But, it's just like I said, you're going to get cut. And, I got scripture here. Goes with it, I think. Let me find it real quick. All right. All right, here we go. Sin came into the world because of what one man did. And with sin came death. This is why everyone must die, because everyone sinned. One man disobeyed God, and many became sinners. In the same way, one man obeyed God, and many will become made right. That's Romans 5:12 through 19. Well, I wrote something here to go with it. When you sin, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. And it goes along with lying. You lie, you got to make more lies to cover up the little lie. And if it eventually turns into this big ordeal, and finally, if you had stepdad like I did, you couldn't lie because he'd find it because he's like a blue tick hound. And you'd wind up getting your butt whooped over. Well, it's like with anything else. Sin leads up to more sinning. You have to, it's about like quicksand. You get stuck, there ain't no getting out. But if you call on God and ask Him to pull you out, He'll reach His hand down there and pick you up. I promise you. I got another verse for you. It's 1 Peter 3:18. Christ Himself suffered for sins once He was not guilty, but He suffered for those who are guilty to bring to you God. Yes. His body was killed, but He was made alive in the Spirit. God died on the cross for all of our sins. You know, sometimes we take that for granted. Sometimes we forget what He really did. And to me, it really hits hard because I know for a fact I've taken it for granted at some point or another. And, you know, it hits you hard because when you stop and think, the man died for us. I know I ain't worth dying for. I don't know about y'all, but I mean, I've done a lot of stuff, and this kind of hits you hard. And, you know, it kind of makes you stop and think, you know, when you go out through your daily routine and your daily commutes or whatever you do during day school or whatever, you know, you just have to stop and think, am I really pleasing God? If you are, that's great. But if you ain't, you know, you need to get yourself in check. You know, do what you're supposed to be doing. I've been doing a little work for the Luckets over there, and Mr. Dave Rouse is over there with us one day. And for those of you who know him, he's a hoot to work with. That man's smart, I'll tell you that. Well, me and him got to talking, and you know, he inspired me. He told me, you know, he said, I sit down, me and my wife sit down every morning, and he says, he said, I pray and read my Bible. Me and her both do. He said, I dedicate that day and any decisions that I make to the Lord. He said, because ultimately, he said, it's not our decisions, it's God, which is very true. God gives us decisions, but when we give it to Him, it's really His decision. He tells us what to do, and we do it. Well, me and him got to talking some more, and I've started doing that, dedicating the day to the Lord. You know, any decisions that may come my way that day, you know, give it to Him. Well, he told me something, and I do believe it's the best quote I have ever heard because it's true, and it just kind of gets you to thinking. It says, sin will take you further than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. And why I think that's the best thing, because it's true in so many different ways. You know, at some point, while you're sinning, you're going to stop and say, hold up a minute, I didn't mean to take it this far. You know, it's too late. You know, I mean, it's not too late in the sense that you can't be helped. Because once again, if you ask God to help you, He does it just like that. He doesn't even blink an eye. If you truly mean it, whenever you ask Him to help, He'll pull you up. And keep you longer than you want to stay. I know that's right, because I've been there. You know, you get to sinning and you get to running with the wrong crowd, and you, inside your mind you like it, but inside your heart you don't, because you know it's not pleasing to God, and you have to listen to what God says. Inside your mind you're like, man, I really like it. You know, not having to do what I'm supposed to do, not having to listen to nobody, just doing my own thing, running, just running, not looking, just running. Well, eventually you're going to hit a tree. You don't look. And, you know, like I said earlier, at some point there's going to be a time you're going to say, hold up. You know, I didn't want to stay this long. You know, it goes both ways. And when you hit a tree, it's going to hit you real hard. Because you're going to think back to everything you've been doing, everything everybody's been telling you, and everything you've ignored. And it's going to hurt you real bad. Because you're going to think, all them people, all my friends, all my family, they's telling me, look, you're on a dead end path. And it's going to hurt you. But you don't listen to it. But when you hit that tree, you'll be thanking God for the people in your life. And you'll listen to them next time. But it's short, sweet, but I believe that's all I got. It was real short, but it'll be all right. At least I didn't take y'all over. Anyways, that's